Hello everyone and welcome to FPL WildCats Live. Thank you for joining us first of all. If you are excited for this stream, make sure to hit that like button and share this out on Twitter so we can get as many people in as possible. Because as you can probably tell already, we have a special guest on the screen, but I will let Nimfria introduce the guest because she does all the work behind the scenes to get the guests on. So I'll hand it over to Nim. Take it away.
Oh, thanks, Jay. Yeah, welcome everybody to the show. Today we're joined by FPL royalty and the man we all know in the FPL community as the General, a regular on the official FPL show and host of the 59th Minute podcast. The General also boasts an impressive history of 3 top 500 finishes. So welcome to the show, General. It's weird me calling you that because I'm so used to calling you G. You know, I'm like for nicknames. How are you?
Call me G, General, Mark, whatever works for you. Yeah, I've been called a lot worse, so don't worry.
We were going to smudge them all together.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Yeah, love the work you've been doing in the last couple of weeks. Haven't caught every stream, but caught quite a few of them. Really enjoyed the one in particular with the 2 injury guys, Ben and the Wilson guy. So keep up the good work.
Oh, cheers. Thanks. Well, I think a really good place to start would be doing a whip round of our teams and let people know how we got on in Gameweek 9. So as you're the guest, General, would you like to take it away and let us know if you're thinking of some transfers of Gameweek 10 as well? That'd be good.
Perfect. Yeah, Gameweek 9. It wasn't a great game week for most people. I came out of it okay. I think I got 43 points. So I got 42. The average was 43. So just 1 point under the average, which I was happy with because there was a lot of horror stories on social media. I mean, I've seen some people even getting less than 20 points. You know, absolute nightmare. But it was a good week to have a bad game week. That's the way I've kind of been looking at it, and that's what I've been saying to people who have had terrible game weeks. You know, it's good to have a low scoring week, you know, when everyone's getting, you know, maximum of 50, 60 points. So I brought in Robertson for Holebas game week 9. So that one worked out pretty well. Robertson came in with 8 points. Trippier did the business again. I've had him for 3 weeks now. So he's been doing really well. I'm quite reluctant to sell him now, even though I do have my eyes on Benjamin Mendy, but I'm kind of reluctant to sell Trippier because he's done so well for me. And I'm probably not going to make that move this week anyway with Spurs playing City. So I'm happy just to hold on to Trippier and maybe reassess then for game week 11. Salah did the business. Should have had more. That was a very good one-on-one chance he had. And, you know, last season that would have been in the back of the net. So hopefully against Cardiff, he's gonna go bigger than 8 points. Might even hopefully see him get some bonus points for a change. I watched Liverpool in the Champions League last night, and he looks more and more back to himself now with every game. So hopefully, as an owner of Salah, and I'm going to captain him this weekend, I'm hoping for big things against Cardiff. So transfer-wise for game week 10, I'm still undecided. I've got a headache with Anthony Knockaert. I got him in 2 weeks ago, and it hasn't really worked out. He's a rotation risk now. He missed a Newcastle game. So I'm eyeing up a couple of options. Pereira at Watford, Schürrle at Fulham. But I'm probably going to end up just going cheaper to save a few bob, and maybe someone like Josh Murphy or Kennedy I'm looking at as well, just to free up some cash.
That's a good shout. Good shout. And we're really wishing Salah would smile a bit more when he scores, or at least celebrate a bit more. So I'll pass you over now to Brett. How did you get on, Brett?
Hey guys, pretty poor game week for me, to be fair. But it's good to hear Mark say that it is a good game week to have a bad game week. I quite like that. And to be fair, despite how disastrous my game week was, I suppose the players I didn't have didn't really punish. So I didn't have Aguero, for example, and he didn't, you know, set the world alight, for example, and neither did Kane, you know. So some big players that didn't really punish me. But yeah, just the 32 points for me and a -4. I brought in Sterling and Firmino for this game week. Both were benched. I would say Firmino was more of a punt than Sterling, but I looked at Liverpool's fixtures, obviously, and having, you know, home games against Cardiff and Fulham and away to Huddersfield, I thought, well, Firmino's a good punt there, you know. And then that was because I wanted to drop Kane. I decided to drop Kane, and I thought I'd then bring in Sterling to kind of cover Aguero, and having looked at Sterling's stats, he had, I think, started every game before being benched in game week 9. So I thought, someone put out on Twitter, there was like an in the know account that said Sterling's going to be dropped. But I looked and he started every other game.
I've seen that.
I thought, hang on a minute, he started every game. He's not going to get dropped. Don't worry yourself. If you don't put him in against Burnley, he's going to rack up the points. Just get Sterling in now. And yeah, obviously he got benched. So that did hurt me. Very poor game week, 32 with a -4. My first hit of the season, to be fair. So it's been a slippery slope over the last couple of weeks. So from 10k, I've gone down to 47k now. So still a good position to be in at this point.
Definitely.
Still a strong position. And obviously I've got Salah in my team as captain. I've got Firmino now. Okay, he got benched last week, but Firmino at home to Cardiff, I still feel quite confident. It's a nice player to own for a home game against Cardiff. Let's put it that way. And the one positive from my game week was captaining Salah, because it turned out that was the best captain option over Hazard, Kane, Aguero. So that was the one positive, really. And obviously, because I had lots of rotation, I had Zaha and Wan-Bissaka coming off my bench. Decent backup players, but Zaha was denied an assist from a missed penalty, so I could have had points there. And then Wan-Bissaka and Hennessy, my two Palace double up at defence, conceded in the 87th minute. So it actually may not have been so disastrous if it wasn't for that Palace game. But yeah, I've taken maybe too many gambles the last few weeks, but that's just in my nature. I like to have a little gamble here and there,
Remind me why we're in a team with you again.
Hey, he's done very well for us. He's done very well for us before.
Very true. He's above most of us.
I've just got. I think, and maybe Mark can touch on this a bit later because he's obviously been so consistent and placing so highly. Like I've had some decent seasons, but I've never placed exceptionally well. And I think maybe that's because of these little punts that I take now and again, which I can't help myself. I get excited and I think, I'll go against the norm. I like to try and find something a bit different. So I went for Son the other week over Maddison and that didn't pay off. And little things like that, I maybe try and be a bit too clever sometimes and maybe, yeah. But that's my game week. It was a poor one, but still a decent position to be in. So onwards and upwards for game week 10 now.
Cool. And how about you, Jay?
Okay, so for me, it was a good game week purely because I was just above the average. So I got 47 points, which saw a rise in rank to 37,000-ish, 38,000. So I was quite happy with the game week, despite the fact that anyone watching the game week before they saw their rank was probably looking at the score thinking, I'm not doing too well, am I? None of my players are scoring. I only really had 4 players return, but Matthew Ryan was my best player, managing to get 11 points with some save points and bonus points. Trippier, I'm having the same problem as Mark. It's a bit like he's done really well since I brought him in for Mendy, but he was only ever meant to be like a placeholder for Mendy. Salah, could have captained him instead of Aguero, but still I'm happy with Aguero. Aguero could have had a hat-trick in that game. So I was a bit disappointed having watched back the games that Salah and Aguero both didn't score more. And then I brought in Doherty a bit late to the party. Everyone's got the points off him. I bring him in and they lose to Watford.
Oh, it's your
2-0.
fault.
Yeah, sorry. I've come in on them and now he's not returning any points.
I had double Wolves defence as well.
I would never... I'm very iffy about doubling up on any defenders, but if I was going to do it, it'd probably only be Man City and Liverpool right now that I'd actually risk a double up on in defence. Hazard, of course, I think everyone's pretty much got Hazard, so him not doing well doesn't really affect me. But overall, I'm very happy with how things have gone. So, yeah, it wasn't like an amazing, exciting game week, but got the job done. Saw a rise in rank, so I'm happy.
Yeah, same. I was in the 47 club as well. So, 47 club. And a green arrow for me as well. Trippier and Robson doing the business. My defence, as I said, I had 2 Wolves defenders. So their 1 points was a bit annoying. Yeah. Alonso joining that 1 point club as well, which was, a bit annoying from somebody so expensive. Yeah, basically, my team was surrounded by 1-pointers because there was Hazard as well, as you guys did. I couldn't hold on to Lucas Moura any longer. He was just getting on my whip. So I used my one. I had 2 transfers, so my one free transfer to swap into Richarlison. And I was between Richarlison and Maddison, but I sided with Richarlison with the whole OOP thing. And it's not feeling like it was the best decision at the minute. So I'm a little bit worried about that one. Happy for Salah, obviously, and his couple of goals midweek, looking good for Cardiff. Mitrovic got me an assist. Jimenez with nothing, and I went with Aguero as my captain. So yeah, Salah was the better option, but I've been there or thereabouts, but it's mainly been between those 2 anyway for my captaincy. I still have 2 free transfers now. I think
nice.
To some extent, I find that more difficult than having, only 1 transfer or no transfers, because you're there going, I've got a transfer to burn. What do I use it on? Do you know what I mean? And you can almost overthink it. Like the other week, I switched Wilson to Jimenez, and then Wilson went nuts. So and I only did that because I had the free transfer and free up some cash. So it can be pretty difficult, that one.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because actually I think on Mark's Twitter, I think Mark was the one that posted about it the other day, that he had carried over 2 transfers without using one. Is that right, Mark? And people had criticised you for that before, but it actually paid off. You had a great season or something.
Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot of people are in a very strong position this week where they do have a very strong squad of 15, and they've got 2 free transfers. So they're trying to find a transfer almost, because they don't really see where they can improve things. Now it's a very rare situation to be in, to have 15 players and be completely happy with 15, and not being able to see a move that you think will improve things. So you then have to decide whether you burn a transfer just to use it, or don't make a move. So effectively you are losing a transfer that way. You will still have 2 free transfers next week, but you're losing out on a transfer that you could have used. So I have seen certain squads where people have sent me a squad, and I'm looking at it and I'm just thinking, there's absolutely nothing that I would do with that squad. And in that case, I think some people will criticize you, saying there always is a transfer that you can make, but there definitely is times when that there is just no improvements that can be made. I really like the guy Camarasa as a 4.5 million midfielder. I think he's the best 4.5 million midfielder. So I've seen a couple of squads with him, and people are suggesting maybe just move him to someone else. But I think he's the best option, so there's no reason to do that. Usually when you've got 2 free transfers and you don't see an obvious move, sometimes it can be a good time to change your goalkeepers. But I've seen some squads, some people have like Matt Ryan and Button, they double up from the same team, so there's no issue there. And there's no point just moving a keeper for the sake of it. So there was, I put up that tweet saying, I think it was Holly, FPL community. She's in the situation. She's got 2 free transfers and she doesn't know what to do. And I just put up she was asking if anyone had ever carried over, without making a move. And I did do it a couple of seasons ago. And I remember being on a forum. It was an Irish forum a couple of years ago. And I remember saying, I'm not making a transfer. I don't see where I can improve things. And I got ridiculed for it. But then I ended up having a very good season. I think it was my best season when I finished 102nd overall. So obviously that decision didn't affect me. But it is a strange week. And I think if you've got 2 free transfers and you don't know what to do, it's a very good sign, because it shows that you've got a very strong squad. So it's probably a lot of people who have wildcarded recently. They've got the squad they want. So my answer would be, don't make a move just for the sake of making it, unless you really feel that it is improving your squad overall.
Definitely. I think for me, it's that sort of thing, like where I have it, the free transfer, I keep thinking, well, should I maybe go to Mendy earlier than everyone else? And I know it's a tough fixture, but it could be now time to kind of jump on and, get in before the bandwagon starts again. And, so you kind of start thinking like that because you have the extra transfer, obviously. So
one thing with those people, a lot of those people have Wan-Bissaka on their benches who, you know, you're not going to want to see him anywhere near your team for the next 4 weeks looking at the fixtures. So if people have, you know, 0.1 or 0.2 in their bank, that is one place maybe to upgrade this week. You could go from Wan-Bissaka to maybe a West Ham defender, or even Wolves. I know Wolves have a couple of tough fixtures coming up, but a move like that probably does improve your squad for the next 4 weeks because you don't want to use Wan-Bissaka. But even if you're just getting in a West Ham defender to sit on your bench, you know,
I don't think Zabaleta is too much more, actually.
Yeah, I think he's 4.3. So if you've had Wan-Bissaka from the start, you know, you're only going to have to need an extra 0.1 for that move. So yeah, people like Balbuena and Diop as well, I think they're good options with the fixtures. Those guys seem to do well in the BPS system, and I would expect West Ham to start keeping a few more clean sheets now looking at the fixtures.
Cool. So we have a couple of questions here from Twitter. So I'll start us off with those and then we'll pop out to the chat. So anybody with any questions, get them into the chat. At Fancy King 2 asks, is it time to put Kane away till after Christmas? Bought him in for Cardiff game and kept for West Ham too. Next dilemma, Harold and Serge now face off game week 10. Does that mean I hold Kane for another week or move for Serge now? And he says, he's obviously quite frustrated about this one. He doesn't know what to do. So, G, would you like to go on that one?
Yeah, sure. In the last 2 or 3 seasons, I've been one of Kane's biggest fans. He's been in my side whenever he's been fit, really, for the last 2 or 3 seasons. But this season is the first time that I haven't owned him. I didn't get him in game week 1, and I've avoided him completely. I haven't owned him once this season, and I've no interest in owning him. I dodged a bullet for the Cardiff game. You know, a lot of people moved to him to captain him that week, but I just didn't really fancy it because I felt it was more of a 1 week punt, you know, rather than a long-term move. So I dodged the bullet there, thankfully. He's just not justifying his price tag, and I think Spurs have got a tough run as well. I'm just looking at it. Spurs have got City, Wolves, Chelsea and Arsenal in their next 5 games. So 4 pretty tough games for Kane, you know, good defences. So Kane is always on my watch list, no matter what form he's in. But I don't think I'll be looking at him at least until game week 15 when the fixtures turn for Spurs.
So he's got Kane. So you're saying make the switch?
Yeah, I know it's probably not the ideal time when they're playing each other, but Aguero's the player I'd want to have long term, you know, for the next 5 or 6 weeks over Kane. So I would have no problem making the move this week. That's it, as long as, you know, maybe he has other fires to fight. But if he doesn't, I would have no problem making the Kane to Aguero move this week. I didn't watch Spurs in the Champions League, but I caught about some highlights today. It was only about 4 or 5 minutes worth of highlights, but Kane did seem to have quite a few chances in that game. He didn't put them all away, but I would have no problem making the move because long term Aguero is the one I would want.
Cool. Yeah, no, I agree. I've seen a lot of people kind of deciding to maybe move Aguero on because of the whole 60-minute thing. But I can't think, well, yeah, I mean, possibly Lacazette, but, you know, I've actually seen so many people jump off of him this week just for, you know, blanking last game week as well, that it's kind of like maybe just stick to one. Do either of you guys have anything else to add to that or any differing opinions?
Jay, do you want to have a little say?
For me, I think in 60 minutes, Aguero is still getting underlying stats better than any other striker. And the strikers that are close, they're still having game weeks where they're not really like getting as many chances. Lacazette, of course, had a game week where he's just had lots of chances but couldn't convert any. Aubameyang isn't getting the minutes. Those are really the only two that, when they're on the pitch, look in form enough to really match Aguero. Kane, I think, with Eriksen coming back and then Dembele, could be a better option, but that you've got to wait and see on it. Spurs actually looked good in the Champions League. I'd say they were unfortunate to actually draw that game. Rash decisions by some of their players cost them. But for me, I think right now Aguero is the premium price striker that looks the most in form. and the most likely to get a big haul in any one game week. And generally that Man City Spurs game, if I was going to bet on a team, I would probably bet on City to score more goals than Spurs. And with Lucas playing, Lucas generally is more advanced. Son is more advanced than Kane. Now Eriksen's back, that might change. So I really don't like Kane. And again, I've avoided him like Mark has for the whole season. And this is probably the first season where Kane never has really been on my radar, despite that game week where everyone did want him. I was like, again, 1 week punt, and I really wasn't liking the look of it. And I'm glad I avoided transferring for one game week. So yeah, I would say if you've got nothing else to do, then you can transfer to Aguero from Kane.
Yeah, just quickly to add as well, let's not forget that Man City have kept like 5 or 6 clean sheets on the bounce now, so granted away to Spurs is a tough game, but they kept a clean sheet away to Liverpool, for example. Statistically it suggests they're very solid defensively at the moment, so and Spurs haven't been so much, I guess. So I would prefer Aguero in that game. He's got a recent form against Spurs isn't great, but he does have a good record against them generally. And Aguero, it's Aguero. He can score against anyone. For me, it's going to sound rich coming from me because I did go for Kane against Cardiff. But I think that was more the excitement of potentially having a massive haul and captaining him and et cetera. But actually watching Kane, and now that I say this, maybe he'll hit some form, but it's just something missing from Kane. Whenever I watch him, he doesn't look sharp. He doesn't come across as convincing to me, even when he does get a goal or two in a game. There's just something missing for me. So that does put me off him in terms of passing the eye test and that kind of thing. But and look, game week 11 at home to Southampton, you're going to want Aguero if you can anyway. So if you make the transfer now, you're going to have him at home to Southampton, which is surely going to be... it's a tasty fixture for Man City, no doubt. So,
yep. Cool. So next question is at DC Banksy, and he asks, what Arsenal attacking player is worth a look in at any team? It seems to be pass the parcel with goals and assists.
Yeah.
So is there anybody who would like to take that first?
That's a tough one. Lacazette's obviously the popular option at the moment, isn't he? I guess for the guarantee of starts. Since he broke into the team, I did a bit of research on Lacazette earlier for my own series, and I think since he broke into the side game week 3 and then started game week 4, he's returned in every game but one, and that was last game week. So he's returned points, maybe not massive hauls, but consistent returns from Lacazette since he's been in the side, and that coincides with Arsenal's good form now, 11 wins on the bounce, since he came in. Granted, their first 2 games, Man City and Chelsea, were very tough. So, but still. Lacazette does look a very good option. Rested again tonight as well. I think he came on for the last 10 minutes or so. So there's more assurances there that he'll start the next game away to Palace. So I do think Lacazette's a very good option for this game week coming up. Crystal Palace are yet to win at home. They haven't scored a goal at home. I know that doesn't affect Lacazette's points, clean sheets and that, but they're not performing at home, and they've conceded, I think, in every game but one at home. They're just not playing very well. So Ozil's an interesting one because he's the budget option, but I don't know. Ozil for me is never an explosive one. He can get a double-digit haul now and again, but he's not explosive enough of a player for me in midfield. So, yeah, Aubameyang's obviously racking up the points, but he's on the bench, isn't he, now and again? So I think Lacazette is probably at this moment, Lacazette's the outstanding option, I think.
Yeah, do you agree, G?
Yeah, Arsenal's a funny one because they're a team banging form, but I haven't had any other players all season, and I don't really see myself bringing any of them in either. The pricing is a problem for quite a few of them. Lacazette's an awkward price. It's hard to fit him into my structure because I've got 2 cheaper strikers and I've got Aguero, and that's probably the same for a lot of people. Ozil was superb against Leicester, but we just can't trust him to show up every week. He seems to show up just whenever he feels like it. He's when there's a flu going around, you can be sure Ozil's going to catch it.
He's going to be sick.
I would like to see him get 5, 6, 7 starts and deliver consistent attacking returns before I'd consider going there. I don't like Aubameyang because he doesn't start every game, and I'm not going to pay 10+ million for a player that doesn't start every game. Defensively, I still don't trust them. Bellerin was superb going forward as well against Leicester, and I'm a big fan of Monreal as well. I probably actually prefer Monreal to Bellerin. I know we missed the game on Monday night, but again, it's until I see more clean sheets, I'm not interested, because when it comes to defenders, I'm first and foremost I want clean sheets, and I just don't see that many from that Arsenal defence.
Yeah.
So it's a funny one. You know, they seem to win every week and score loads of goals, but I'm still not interested in them FPL wise.
Yeah, no, I definitely considered Lacazette. I did find it a tad annoying after the last game week where everyone was like, "Oh, I sold Aubameyang in like game week 3, and it was the worst decision I ever made." Well, I only sold him a couple of weeks back, and I don't regret it really. I mean, I know he's done well the last 2 matches, but I'm pretty sure I sold him for somebody who's done more consistently and has started every match, and it's given me the funds elsewhere in my team. So yeah, that's been quite interesting to watch that slight meltdown happen on Twitter for sure. Jay, do you have anything to add to either of those?
Well, I mean, I'm the one that took a punt on Ramsey. And
oh yes, you did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be honest, I wasn't aware that he was having twins. So that would have maybe affected my thinking. I knew there was contract issues. I knew all about that, and I thought after the last stream we did with Ben and Johnny, they were talking about how with the contract not going through, he might want to prove himself, so he's on the market in the summer and all of that, or he might want to prove himself and get that contract he felt he deserved. So I was mainly focused on that and thought I'd bring in Ramsey. First week didn't go too well, but the second week he came off the bench and got 10 points. So I thought, you know what, I'll keep him for the Leicester game. I then heard he had the kids, twins, so congratulations, first of all, Ramsey. But again, he didn't start. Unlike Aubameyang, he didn't come on and get any points. He just came on, which stopped anyone from my bench coming on. But I think I may just hold for the Palace fixture, just in case he's now that the pregnancy's out of the way, it's happened, and he's had time to settle in. Hopefully he'll play in that game. He looked good when he got 10 points in that game, and he's always been a player I do like the look of as long as he can stay fit. The only other player I'm interested in is Lacazette, and again, I'm like Mark, I've got one expensive striker and I'm happy with Aguero at the moment, so I don't see how I can get Lacazette into my side. And the rest of them, defence, I'm so focused on Mendy, Alonso, Trippier, Robertson, that I can't see a way for an Arsenal defender into my side. And midfield, there's plenty of options there. A lot of my budget is already on Salah and Hazard, so I can't see any way to get any Arsenal midfielder that's any more expensive than Ramsey into my side. So yeah, for me it's difficult to really look at Arsenal players. So again, I'm not really likely to bring any of them in just because the fixtures are good.
Okay, I just noticed that Chelsea have scored another. I don't know who scored it, but
it's a would you believe a Ruben Loftus-Cheek hat trick.
Oh, hat trick! Wow, go on, Rubens.
Get him in. What's the price?
Bandwagon a rolling. Choo choo.
See the 4.5 million favourite from last season, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was indeed, definitely.
That might see him get some more game time in the Premier League, maybe.
But yeah, just to add, I wouldn't go anywhere near Arsenal defenders. I say that quite often. I know we're a new season, new manager, all that sort of thing, but still the same players. So until I get something that would suggest that we're going to be solid in defence a lot more and get some clean sheets, and then you could look at somebody like Nacho and Bellerin to get the attack, then I would stay away from Arsenal defence. Jay Rambo did play tonight. He started, I believe, and looked good, but he didn't do.
I don't want him to start in Europe. So,
yeah, just kind of filling you in there to make you feel much better about that. Okay.
Out he goes then.
At FPL Booster has a question for the general. Would you captain Eleanor against Burnley or Aguero, who is going only 60 minutes? So tell us all about Eleanor.
I presume he's talking about Mr. Hazard there, is he?
That
was my assumption, yeah.
Yes.
So people will know my troubles with Hazard over the years, but it's been all rosy since I brought him in this season. He's done really well, so he's got a bit of a knock now. So I've got Aguero and I've got Hazard, but it's going to be Salah captain for me. But if I didn't own Salah and it was down to Hazard and Aguero, obviously I'd want to hear some positive news on Hazard's injury to trust the captaincy with him. I do think Aguero can do well against Spurs. Spurs are without Vertonghen as well. I think he's a huge miss for them defensively. And you just never know what kind of performance you're going to get from Hugo Lloris. So the answer there is probably with the slight injury doubt for Hazard, I would probably captain Aguero, even though he probably will only get 60-65 minutes. But as J&O mentioned already, in Game Week 9, Aguero was top for shots in the box, top for chances, top for big chances among strikers. Mm. So I would take a 65-minute Aguero over any other striker.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. Anything to add, lads?
It just seems to be the same story every game week with Aguero, doesn't it? Because even though he's getting 65 minutes, you look at the stats and he seems to be there or thereabouts at the top every week. So that's why people are so accepting, even if he is playing such short minutes, that he's still up there with all the chances. And again, 65 minutes last week, but very close to a very big haul. And I feel like I got away with not owning him last week. So I got to get a bit fortunate there,
You've got to rest in the Champions League as well, so he should be nice and fresh.
I was going to mention that too. That was interesting because you'd think he's coming off at 65 because he's going to be played in that Champions League game, but fully rested. Monday night football now, so a bit of an extra couple of days rest, and over long term, a good record against Spurs. Maybe not in the short term, but he does have a good history against them. So he should do well.
Awesome. And if Jay doesn't have anything to add, we'll pass it out to the chat.
All right, cool. Chat. Awesome. All right. So firstly, someone, JNO, you'll like this. Anne O'Brien wants to know if Kurt is going to join the Salah bandwagon after he scores 2 versus Cardiff.
That's my cue.
That's your cue. That's it. Now. Do it.
Yeah, we can see a tweet just to the side of my face cam there. That is Kurt doubting his decision not to have Mohamed Salah. So yeah, he's coming to the dark side, or I suppose it's the good side. He was always on the dark side. So yeah, it would be interesting to see if he does bring Mo Salah in. We'll of course let you know as soon as we can. I may even tweet out about it if I do find out he's put him in. But yeah, unfortunately we don't know anything more about Kurt's side because he couldn't make it tonight. And we didn't have time to do any video like we usually do for him. So it'd be very interesting next stream to see what his decision was.
Definitely.
Cool. Well, a lot of the chat is about Salah, of course. He's the sort of talking point now, isn't he? 3 goals in the last 2 games in all competitions, starting to look back to his best. And obviously with an amazing fixture at home to Cardiff, or a seemingly amazing fixture at home to Cardiff. There's obviously a lot of talk about bringing him in. Now, because of his early season form, there are quite a few teams now that are without Salah. Understandably why. He hasn't quite been setting the world alight. Is it worth now people taking a -4 to get him back in this week? Obviously, we can't talk about which players specifically people are taking out. FPLD has commented saying, should he downgrade Aguero to like Vardy to get Salah in? Is it worth taking a -4 to get Salah, do you think?
Yeah, I think it really depends on who you're taking out. I mean, I wouldn't be taking a -4, getting rid of someone like Hazard or Mane. Mane could easily match Salah this weekend. Yeah. So I know a lot of people are probably watching that Liverpool game or just seeing the result and seeing Salah brace. And some people are probably thinking, should I go Mane to Salah this weekend? But I would be quite happy just to keep Mane. I think he can do just as well. Mane looked a lot sharper as well in the Champions League. Obviously, he missed a penalty, which bodes well for Salah as well. It was actually interesting to see that Salah did step up to take that penalty.
Yes, for sure.
I didn't expect him to do so.
The order of penalties has actually been confirmed now by Salah in an interview. So it's Milner first, Salah second, and then Mane third. So
okay.
if Milner isn't started, Salah does take the penalties, apparently.
So that's more good news for Salah owners, because even when Milner is back to full fitness, you would expect him to see more rotation now. With Fabinho played last night and he seemed to play pretty well. So Milner's game time is he's going to be rotated a lot more. So we could see Salah taking a lot more penalties. He's a player. I know we always get excited about penalty takers, but I do think it's not always a good thing. And Salah's a player who doesn't strike me as the most confident when he's standing on the penalty spot. Even watching the Liverpool game last night, I was watching it with a friend of mine, and he's a Liverpool fan, and we both turned to each other and we just said, he's missing this. You know, we didn't have much faith in him, and then he smashed it down the middle. But yeah, I suppose hopefully if he is taking more, that he does find the back of the net, because it would be pretty frustrating to see him step up and miss one.
Do you have Salah, Mark?
Yeah, I've had Salah from day one. I've never considered getting rid of him. Obviously, we know what he can do from last season, and even through the tough times, he's always been posting good underlying stats. So I've always felt, you know, he's never too far away from getting a haul. The bonus points is obviously a problem, but it's not something I worry about too much. But yeah, he has been showing signs in recent games that he is getting back to his best, and 3 or 4 goals against Cardiff this weekend. I'm feeling it.
Let's hope so.
So if somebody doesn't have Liverpool cover, so say they have Hazard, Sterling, something like that, would you suggest dropping one of those to Mane? Obviously, because they'd have to tear up their team to get in a Salah, but dropping one of those to Mane.
I wouldn't like going into this weekend without Liverpool attacking coverage. I think if you're at this point, don't have Liverpool attacking coverage, you probably, I won't say you're doing something wrong, but it's definitely something you need to address. Obviously, one of the 2 best attacking sides in the league who score the most goals, so you want attackers. Firmino hasn't been cutting it recently. So Mane and Salah are still the top 2 choices, I think, from the Liverpool attack. And I will be trying to get one of them in this week. And yes, a lot of people are flocking towards Salah now because of his brace in the Champions League, but I still rate Mane very highly. And I think he can do just as well as Salah over the coming weeks. And obviously you can use the cash saved elsewhere to improve your squad.
Cool stuff. I think I might have, somebody said I might have frozen or something. Something there, I'm afraid. I'm not sure what happened there. Must have been some technical issues on the internet line. Sorry about that. Okay, Brett, do we have another question out there?
Yeah, I just want to quickly, before I go back to the chat, just to throw another one at Mark. Sorry to bombard you with questions.
No, you're okay.
But so if obviously you've said that Mane could easily equal Salah, and you're quite right there. Would Mane be a captain option for you if you didn't have Salah this year? Would you captain Mane?
This weekend, if I didn't have Salah this weekend, it's Mane's probably similar to Hazard. I'm never 100%. I'd never feel 100% comfortable putting the armband on those players because they can be very hot and cold. But I think this weekend, if you don't have Salah, if you don't have Hazard, I think Mane is the next best option then against Cardiff. Sure. I expect, watching Liverpool last night, they were much more gung ho. And hopefully we'll see that against Cardiff as well. They have seemed to be pretty content this season to hold back and be more stable at the back. They seem much happier to win 1 and 2-0 this season, whereas last season you would see them going all out to get 3, 4, 5 goals. So Cardiff do tend to have a go at teams. Warnock has said that there's not much point sitting back and getting beat anyway. We may as well have a go. So I think that can play into Liverpool hands this weekend, and I would expect Liverpool to score maybe 4 or 5 against Cardiff. So if they score 4 or 5, you would expect Mane to be heavily involved. Definitely. Captaincy, I think if there was ever a weekend to captain Mane and be comfortable about it, I think it would be this one.
Yeah, I think so too. If I did own him, not that I do, but with the Hazard, with the slight injury that would push me towards Mane a bit. Sorry, Dim, do you want to say?
I was just to say, as somebody sent me a team, they owned Aguero, but they'd bought Sterling and Hazard. I think the injuries last week had kind of put them off. They just wildcarded and it put them off Liverpool. So they had messaged asking, would I which one would you drop? Because obviously with Sterling, they had Aguero cover, Man City covering Aguero, so they were like, is it Sterling and keep Hazard, or like you said, with the injury, it makes it a tad more difficult which one to move on. So tough one.
I think even Hazard's injury, I don't think it's going to be a major one.
Yeah,
he seemed to be suffering with the injury in the warm up before the United game, and he still managed to get through that one. So I always expected him to miss the Europa League. I think he's a player who just doesn't really want to play in the Europa League. So I fully expect him to be back against Burnley. And even if he was to miss out against Burnley, there's no way I'd want to sell him. Chances are he'd probably only miss one game if he does miss out. So Sterling is the guy I'd be looking to move on before Hazard. I think Hazard he could be a season-long hold.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's kind of nuts that we're suggesting that, isn't there, as well, with Sterling being the second best midfielder in the game at the minute.
Well, the thing with Hazard is he came on the start of the season, when they did have the issues with him from coming from the World Cup. When he did come on, he still got points. So whereas if Sterling doesn't start, there's always the chance that Man City are so far ahead that they don't think they need to bring Sterling on. So I would always look. Yeah, exactly. So if Chelsea need the points, Hazard's coming on straight away if he's on the bench.
Yeah.
So I think Hazard's a lot safer of a choice, even if both were to start on the bench.
Nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, I'll relay that. Thanks.
So we're going to stick with Liverpool. The one captain would like to know, is there any hope for TAA, Trent Alexander-Arnold? Should we sell him this game week? What should we do with TAA? So I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys say, because I'm in this position at the moment. So
yeah, this was all what my stream was about on Monday. Literally just the same question. Like, I want to drop TAA. Who do I do it for? Yeah. Gomez or Lovren? Gomez or Lovren? Literally, that was the whole time the chat. And and it's really difficult. I think we edged out by the end of the stream that Gomez possibly, because of that possible attacking threat if he's moved out onto the right. But yeah, it's difficult because obviously Trent started, didn't he, midweek? So and he looked really good. So it's whether you can trust as an owner that he's going to start every week. Really, that's kind of where it's at.
Yeah, the difficult thing for me, I've got Trent now, and I would put that down as one of my mistakes to bring him in. Easy to say that now because he's missed the last two games. Looking at their fixtures, I thought he'd be a good way in, free kicks, that etc. etc. We know the story, but I actually swapped him out for Laporte 2 game weeks ago, which again, that was to fund Kane. So that Kane move, going off topic here, but that 1 week punt on Kane does affect you for a lot of game weeks, because now I've missed back-to-back clean sheets with Laporte, a player that people are starting to bring in now, and I've moved off him. So that's really frustrating. But one of the big failures of my season so far is not owning Robertson from the start. I just can't believe I haven't. I just don't know why I didn't go for Robertson at the start. I went for Van Dijk instead, and easy to say now, but we shouldn't be worrying about TAA. We should just own Robertson, really.
Pretty much what I've been saying.
Yeah, and now I kind of got money locked up, and I don't like having so much invested in defence, even though that seems to be the go-to this season. I still, part of the back of my mind refuses to put so much money in my defence, and it's never how I've ever played. So it is frustrating because Liverpool have kept 2 clean sheets, and I've missed both of them with TAA now. But I don't know, Gomez has played so much. Like, he played again in midweek. So someone's saying, well, Gomez is bound to get a rest soon. He can't play every game either. So there's still some hope that TAA will play. So I'm resigning to him being dropped. But against Cardiff, with Cardiff at home, I'm just going to have to hold and hope for the best, I think.
Yeah, I had the same. One of the reasons I had a terrible start to the season was the same as you. I went for Van Dijk over Robertson game week 1, pure gut feeling, and obviously hindsight was the wrong choice, and I very quickly moved off Van Dijk. Game week 2, I sold him right away, and I got Mendy in. But Robertson, like you, it's the player that we all really should own. And that was, I got him in. I just got him in last week, so I did weigh up TAA last week as well. But it's just the security of starts, and obviously I just think he's a better option as well. He's better in BPS and things like that. I think it is a tricky one for people like yourself now who own TAA, and I've been getting a lot of questions about that this week. What should I do? Do I keep him? Do I sell him? Do I move sideways to another Liverpool player? And that's something I wouldn't do. I wouldn't move from TAA to Gomez or Lovren, because you could be just moving from one problem to another. We have no idea what's his name, Klopp, is going to do. This could be Gomez's weekend to take a rest. He is going to heavily rotate this season because he's going to want to do well in the Champions League as well. So what I would do if I owned Alexander-Arnold this week is if you have a good first sub that can come in, I would just give him one more week against Cardiff, because I do have a feeling that we could see him start against Cardiff, and I just don't think I think he's worth giving one more week, because if he doesn't play, you can get your sub off the bench and then you can just get rid of him after that. Obviously, if he misses 3 games in a row, you're not going to want to keep him, but I think that the potential is there for him to get a big score if he starts against Cardiff. You'd expect a clean sheet. You could get attacking returns. So the other side of it is, maybe if you don't have any other issues in your side this week, maybe now would be the time to address the Alexander-Arnold problem. But I probably would be moving away from Liverpool defence unless it's Robertson, or even not many people are talking about Van Dijk because he hasn't got any attacking returns, but obviously he's probably the most nailed on across the back four. Alisson obviously is a great option in goal as well, but if Van Dijk could be a bit of a differential in some mini leagues, because I know not a lot of people will own him because he's not getting the attacking returns like Robertson is, and we could see him start scoring goals soon. And during his Liverpool career in the Premier League, he hasn't scored many goals. I don't know if he scored any, and he seems to score all his goals in the cup competitions. But if you go back to his time at Southampton and going right back to his time at Celtic, he did score a lot of goals. So we could see him starting to find the back of the net soon. So I think it has to be Robertson, Van Dijk or Alisson. I don't think we can consider any of the others now at the moment.
Okay, interesting. So what questions do we have next, Brett? And we'll pass this one to Jay because he's been a bit quiet up there.
I didn't disagree with anything, so.
Okay, Jay. Mr. Robert would like to know some suggestions for Lucas Moura, and he would also like to know if you should take a -4 to get rid of Glenn Murray as well, who's a slight injury doubt. So maybe suggest some replacements for Moura first.
Okay, so I've been looking at what I would do in case I was replacing Ramsey. So it's kind of a similar situation.
Same
price-wise, yeah. So I've looked at a bunch of players. The ones that I was looking at first, without really looking into the stats, was Pereira from Watford. Was really standing out to me with their fixtures. He is a quality player. Has disappeared for a little bit, but then of course came back with the game against Wolves. So I was looking at him. Richarlison, if he was moved back out wide, I would maybe consider. I don't like how he's looked playing up front. I feel like it's kind of restricted his game, and maybe it means centre backs are paying more attention to him. He can't just drift into the space. So Richarlison was out. The one that really stood out to me after I started looking at the stats, though, was Sigurdsson. And it's one that I don't hear mentioned often. But for the fact of you've got the chance of goals, but also the chance of assists, whereas a lot of the other options, it's either they've got a goal threat or they've got chance creation in their locker. Sigurdsson has both. The fixtures kind of put me off a little bit, to be honest. But a Marco Silva side...
It's like every other week, isn't it? It's like a good fixture at a bad fixture. So it's like you kind of want a rotation option, but then if you're spending 7 million on the likes of Sigurdsson or 6.8 or whatever Richarlison is, it's almost like a bit too much as a rotation option, then, isn't it? So it's difficult.
For me, I've got Maddison and Fraser. If I wasn't taking out Fraser, so true. I'm not thinking of Maddison because I've already got him. Apart from one game week, I think one of those three has a good fixture for me, which is probably maybe why I'm leaning towards Sigurdsson. The one though, before I looked into any of the into a season tracker to see the fixtures, or before looking at underlying stats, was Roberto Pereira. He was the one that I looked at over the game week just gone and thought, for at least 3 game weeks, I believe they've got 3 good fixtures, Watford, with Huddersfield, Newcastle, Southampton. Then game week 13 it is Liverpool. But for 3 game weeks, I was thinking maybe that could be a move for the 3 game weeks. Leicester, of course, have the great fixtures, but unless it's Maddison or Vardy, I don't really fancy any Leicester City player. I did look at knockout for a long time because of the fixtures. I just never pulled the trigger, and I'm slightly happy I didn't, to be fair.
Well done.
Now looking at it,
Well done.
it was more me making moves elsewhere than anything else, because I was looking at him too. A lot of people looking at Kennedy just as a way to save money for moves elsewhere. The fixtures are looking good. It's more of a, hopefully Newcastle up their form and start to perform now that they've got good fixtures. And then if West Ham still had Yarmolenko, then potentially I might have looked at Yarmolenko and Felipe Anderson, one of those two. But with Yarmolenko out, I want to see how that team lines up without him before I go for any of their midfield. And Arnautovic probably is the safest route into that West Ham side anyway. So I'm pretty much saying Sigurdsson or Roberto Pereira in a long way.
I'll be keeping an eye on Martial.
See, I'm against Martial.
Yeah. But only I'm not sure if that's a bandwagon yet, so I wouldn't be jumping on him just yet. I just made him a one to watch. My
problem with Martial is his goal conversion and shot accuracy is at 75%. That's not usually something that is kept up in an FPL season. And with Mourinho as manager, I'd never know if Martial's suddenly not going to be in favour anymore and suddenly disappear from the starting lineup. I think Sanchez and Lingard have been out for reasons other than just being dropped as well. I'm not 100% sure on that. So, don't get me wrong, I'll still watch him. If he still keeps doing this, there's always players that do outperform the underlying stats. But right now, I'm not really looking at Martial.
Well, I owned Pereira during that blank spell,
the dry spell.
So going back I'd need some serious persuading, put it that way, because it wasn't fun owning through that spell and watching people own the likes of Maddison and Richarlison for similar prices. So the other one, I'm not entirely sure what will happen now with the Chelsea team, but another one I've got my eye on is Barkley, which would free up some funds as well. But obviously we have to see how much game time he gets now. So,
did you mention Pereira earlier, Mark, as a consideration for yourself? Or?
Yeah, I was just going to come back in. Basically, every single thing that Jay just said, I agreed with. So,
yes,
I mentioned 4 players earlier who I'm looking at to replace Knockaert. So Pereira, Schürrle, Kennedy, and Josh Murphy at Cardiff. And the one when I think about it, without looking at any stats or anything, the one that my gut is telling me to go for is Pereira. I'm a big fan of Watford. I think they've stepped it up a level this season. Yeah, they did go through a bit of a dry spell, but they were very impressive again against Wolves. And Pereira is a player I really, really like. But the problem I have with Pereira is I've got exactly enough cash to do Knockaert to Pereira. But the problem then is I wouldn't be able to do Trippier to Mendy the following week. So I'd be 0.1 off that move. So I'm kind of looking ahead as well. Because Trippier to Mendy is a possible move for me game week 11. I'm not sure yet, but if I get Pereira, it kind of rules out that one, which will probably end up putting me off him. As much as I'd like to get him, as Jay mentioned, those next 3 fixtures are very, very nice for Watford, and I would expect Pereira to do well in those 3. So I'm probably going to have to go for one of the cheaper guys just for budget reasons.
I've got Hughes on my bench, so you're saying it might be a good idea to keep him for the next 3?
Yeah, it's Watford. Watford's a funny one now because Success played and Delafeu played. I thought with Deulofeu coming back in, it might affect Will Hughes. But obviously, Deeney and Gray didn't play. So I still think Hughes is probably at risk long term, possibly. We don't really know how they're going to set up going forward formation-wise. So we probably need a bigger sample size to see which Watford players are actually going to be the best. But I do think Pereira is safer than Hughes, and possibly more explosive as well. Going back to Martial as well, I'd be pretty wary of getting him in. He's never been consistent. He has these big holes in him, and he does it from time to time.
He does, yeah.
Again, as Jay mentioned, he's one bad performance away from being dropped by Mourinho. Sanchez and Lingard haven't started the last 3 games when he has. So, and with United, I never trust them attacking wise with Mourinho in charge. I don't trust him defensively this season either, for obvious reasons. So, as a Man United fan, I haven't owned any United players this season, and I don't see myself getting any of them in anytime soon until things improve. So, be wary of Martial. Let's see if he can do it for another couple of weeks.
He's a one to watch. He was definitely my one to watch video rather than a one to get. So definitely, I'm kind of in a similar situation. I was wondering whether to use my free transfer on Hughes and moving him to Kennedy, which would give me an extra 0.1, which would allow me next game. Well, it would allow me this game week if I wanted to use both of my transfers, but just to roll my transfers for next game, it would allow me to do Jimenez to Arnautovic. So I was wondering what you thought about that. And then my front three would be Arnautovic, Mitrovic, and Aguero. There's a lot of itches there.
Yeah, I like the sound of that front three. I think Arnie's by far and away the best budget striker now. I think if Aguero's probably the number one striker to own, and I'd probably put Arnautovic second. Looking at the fixtures coming up, so I'm glad I've got him in early, even though he hasn't done much the last 2 game weeks. I'm expecting big things from him. But Will Hughes I'd probably keep him for the Huddersfield game. So rather than getting rid of him, I'd probably roll the transfer instead. Kennedy is one I've been looking at, but the thing with Kennedy is Newcastle have just been so poor, and
that was my worry.
We're looking at him because we're hoping that Newcastle are going to turn it around.
Because he's cheap.
Obviously things are not all good there with Ashley and the fans and Rafa Benitez and things like that, and they really struggle to score goals, Newcastle. So that kind of puts me in doubt about Kennedy. He takes a lot of shots, but we really need Newcastle to improve, and I don't know if I'm willing to take the chance on backing Newcastle really, because that's what you're doing with a Kennedy transfer.
Yeah, cool. Okay, well, we'll take one more question and then we'll wrap it up, I think, because apparently my internet's been shocking, so I'm very sorry. I'm not sure what's going on tonight.
Cool. Just really, really quickly before I go into another question, just to say, without self-promotion, but I've scripted my point predictor already. So I've picked the 5 players that I'm going to put on tomorrow, and the budget midfielder is Pereira. I've already written that. So no in-depth stats here, but through Pereira's dry spell, the 5 games, I think he went without a goal or an assist. 3 of them were against the tough fixtures. So Tottenham, United and Arsenal in those 3. So not the easiest fixtures on paper. Now he plays Huddersfield next. So I think he's a very good, with good fixtures coming up, certainly as a 1-week punt as well. A very good option, I think. Huddersfield conceded 11 goals in 4 away games so far. And Watford, kind of coming back to form, beating Wolves. So they have been very impressive this season. So just a bit more incentive for Pereira.
You're just trying to make Mark feel worse about not getting him.
Right, let me go back.
You know what? Another reason why I want to get Pereira is, on the FPL website, you've got the shirts for each team. So there's something about the Watford shirt. So I've messed around this week and put Pereira in instead of Knockhart. That shirt just looks so nice on the pitch. So maybe that will sway me towards just doing it. It's probably because it's probably been a long time since I've had a Watford player as well. That's probably another reason. But those black and yellow stripes look really nice on my FPL side.
Right. Okay. So there's a guy in the chat called Flavo, I think is his name, and he's kind of doing a player comparison. So he wants to either know whether to go Trippier or Mendy. And also Mane or KDB? Should he take a little punt on KDB?
Interesting.
You want me to take this one?
Yeah,
go for it.
I think the first one's easy. I think it's got to be Mendy. Trippier's been great the last 3 weeks, but long term, Mendy's the one I'd want to own out of those two. He's an absolute machine. 6 assists and 6 appearances says it all for a defender. So, I mean, if he keeps going like that, he's going to rack up probably the biggest ever score for a defender. So let's see if he can let's see if he can add goals to his game as well. It's probably one thing he's lacking. So. I know we can't be good at everything, but the second one is a bit tougher, probably Mane and KDB. A lot of people seem to be in a big rush to get KDB. I don't really see what the rush is. You know, he's just coming back from injury. Yeah, I'd expect him to be, fielded back into the team slowly. I think he got around 60 minutes in the Champions League. So, one or two tough fixtures coming up as well. Just getting them up in front of me. So Spurs next, and then United. Spurs and United in the next 3 for City. So I would be happy enough to wait on KDB until about 3 or 4 game weeks time and let him get up to speed and show that he's back to the highest level. So yeah, I would be patient with KDB. Obviously, it could pay off to get him in early, but yeah, I think Mane. I'd probably rather own Mane this weekend. And then maybe look to move to KDB a little bit later. I don't have any Man City midfielders, and I have absolutely no idea which one I'm going to go for when the time comes. I want to get Mendy in first of all, and then I'll figure out which City midfielder to go for. There's just so many, and it's interesting because they're all different price points. You've got Bernardo, you've got David Silva, and then KDB, and you've got the more expensive Sterling. So it's a very interesting choice we have to make with the City midfielders, and it's probably an important one to get right.
Is there any doubt in your mind, Mark, about Mendy potentially being rotated? Is there any worry about the rotation there?
Yeah, I think there definitely is, but I think there's a worry with so many players this season, probably more so than ever. Even Trippier obviously is another one who's a rotation worry. I would even be worried about Robertson, from time to time. So I just think sometimes you just kind of got to forget about the rotation risk and just take it on the chin and make sure you have good substitutes who can come in and do a job for you. But yeah, I don't think Mendy's going to play every game between now and the end of the season, but you just kind of got to hope that he plays the majority of those.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see whether KDB gets shifted back into that defensive kind of mid and creating the play a bit further back as he was kind of at the beginning of the season, or whether he will be allowed, like he was in the last game, to keep attacking as he was in the previous season, really. And I'm not really sure we can know that just from one game yet.
I think David Silva is the one I still like the most, and I'm kind of regretting selling him. I sold him 2 weeks ago. It was a nightmare of a transfer 2 weeks ago. I sold Silva and Callum Wilson for Knockaert and Arnautovic. So 2 transfers that have Wilson punished me game week 8 and David Silva punished me game week 9. So I think I could end up going back to David Silva when it comes to Man City midfielders, even though he's not going to play every week, but it's the same for all of them really. So he's the one I like most at the moment.
Yeah, I've been very tempted to do the whole Jimenez switch back to Wilson, especially for this game week.
He's a nightmare.
I know, and I'd go back there and he'd do nothing, I bet. But if I don't, I bet he'll haul again.
Then please don't.
Yeah, I'll be helping out my teammates if I don't. Okay, then we will leave it there, guys. I don't even know if people can see me at this point, but they can. Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm just a frozen face. But thanks to everyone for joining, and thanks to the General. And I'll pass you over to Jay to wrap us up properly.
Okay, so again, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to Mark for joining us as well, taking the place of Kurt. We'll let you know as soon as possible on the @FPL WildCats Twitter page when we'll be going live next. We'll probably figure that out just as we sign off now. Also, please like and subscribe if you have enjoyed the content. Hit that notification bell so you're alerted when we go live. And also, please check out all of our channels. Links in the description. Also, the 59th Minute podcast by Mark. There's a link to the SoundCloud for that as well, so go check that out. And all that being said, thank you so much for joining us, and we're out.